It is 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. The first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a roll call, please?
Here. Present.
Here.
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 Thank you. Next, we'll do the introduction of staff. On the far end, we have our board secretary and board secretary and business administrator, Dan Doricio. Next to him is Georgianne Fisher, our head of HR. And next to her is Andrea Farina, our assistant superintendent. Next to Mike and Dr. Roche, we have our solicitor, Kyle Summers, and we have Enoch as our student representative for this week. And I believe she can't make tonight. Okay, so he's the only one. Okay, so next is the board president's report. So I don't really have a report, it's more of a statement that I'd like to make. I'm gonna fumble a little bit, a little nervous. My first meeting as president. Several of my friends and family have questioned my sanity as to why I would want to lead the school board at a time like now when things are so contentious. I don't think they have to be so contentious. I really don't. People can disagree in an agreeable way. It is possible. I'm not sure when we stop believing that. I look around this room and I know we have a lot of people who are watching on Zoom, and we're all here for the same reason. We all have the same wish. It's why we show up to all these meetings, month after month, week after week. We want our students to get the best education possible in a safe, friendly, nurturing environment. That's what we all want. Everyone here, everyone at home. So we need to use that as a basis moving forward. People simply have different opinions on how to reach that, but that's okay. That's how good ideas come around. No one's the enemy. We need to remember that. My goal during my time here as president, however long it is very simple. I want us to work together, not against each other. I want our dialogue to be thoughtful and respectful. I want to hear what people have to say without being distracted by insults and people yelling out and shouting. I want everyone who wants to be heard to feel like safe coming and speaking up. So to that end, I want to go over a few procedural things, not as a retaliation or anything like that, simply because I want peaceful, respectful dialogue. This is a business meeting for the board of directors to conduct the business of the school district, and it needs to be treated as such. We can't do that if people are shouting out, yelling, interrupting others. So if that occurs, my plan is to call a 5-minute recess to regain order. Again, not to punish anybody, just to bring us back to a calm state so that we can get back to focusing our attention on the matters at hand. There are 2 opportunities during the meeting for community members to make comments to the board. I'm gonna take a drink of water, hold on a second. The first public comment time during the meeting is reserved for those who wish to comment on a particular agenda item that the board is scheduled to take action on. At the end of the meeting, members of the community can make comments on any matter they want to bring to the board's attention. It does not need to be an agenda item. During both of those public comment periods, Speakers will have 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, you will need to conclude your comment and the microphone will be shut off shortly thereafter. It is important that everyone who wants to be heard has a chance to speak, so please just return to your seat when your time is up. Comments should be made to the whole board, not to individual board members. And another thing that happens is one thing that's really confusing. When the meeting is opened up to public comment, it's comment time, not a question and answer period. If you have a question that needs to be answered, it's generally better to contact an individual on the board or the entire board by email or the board communication line. One little caveat about the board communication line, because I was in charge of that last year. If you have a question and you want an answer, please supply your contact information. Many times last year, people would write something, say that they wanted a reply, but then the contact information would be blank and I wouldn't be able to return a response. I truly believe that we as a community can work together if we talk to each other, not shout over each other. And that's my goal. I'm extending my hand out to anybody who wants to join me, and I certainly hope you will. That's the end of my board statement. Next, we have our superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure I took my time because last time I didn't share my screen. I got in trouble afterwards. So thank you, Ms. McGinnis, for turning over the microphone. For superintendent report, a couple of things to update everyone on, besides some obvious things that need to be, here we go. So happy New Year to everyone. It's welcome to see everyone back. It was a nice winter break and definitely had some changes and items that came over the break that'll be shared a little bit tonight in the updates on the health and safety plan. But I want to wish everyone a happy 2022. We're happy that we're back in school in person and continuing towards that goal of continuing our in-person instruction as best we can. And I'll have some comments on that here as we move forward, but just want to welcome everyone back. At this time, I'd also like to congratulate Mrs. Penny Pecker, who received an award in December, the 2020 NIAAA Awards presentation. Mrs. Penny Pecker was awarded the Thomas E. Frederick Award of Excellence. So I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Penny Pecker on her award and recognition and her commitment to the public education with a 36-year career, as well as 26 in athletic administration. So congratulations. Also want to remind everyone, as we have now for the 3rd January, participated in the Great Kindness Challenge. That'll be coming up January 24th to 28th. All of our schools have plans in place. You can see a lot of, actually here, I saw the kindness tree when I walked past the hallway today. So we're going to continue to promote kindness through that week and join other schools and organizations and hopefully ask as part of our community to join us as well. And this will be the flyer that goes along with that to continue that. So stay tuned for information from your building principals, as well as I know Mrs. Gum will be leading the district effort during that week for kindness. So we're looking forward to everyone participating in that. Next, I want to just talk a little bit about COVID and the impact that it's had. It has been, a challenge on everyone. You're seeing school districts in other areas on the news, all sorts of things with many different challenges, and we have all those same challenges. They may not be glaring out there all the time, but I want to recognize and pass along some kudos to our nurses and our teachers, our support staff, administration, their transportation, food service, facilities, technology, maintenance. I'm sure I missed someone in there, but the team is doing everything they can in dealing with COVID and keeping schools open. Some schools, it has not been great. It feels like there's a lot of substitutes, a lot of extra coverages, a lot of new duties, but we're doing everything we can with the goal of staying open. Staffing will be one of those critical points that if something it has to shift to that, to shift to another model besides in person, it will be because of staffing, as you're seeing in other areas. So I'm going to go over those other potential pieces of that, but we are doing everything we can. That is the goal. And I want to, again, recognize the people that are in there on a daily basis being asked to do all sorts of things. and I've been in the buildings lately, I've covered classes, and that's not about me, but people are doing everything they can. So I know Mr. LaSalle, Mr. Jet, while you're here, please pass that thank you along to your membership. And we'll continue to do all we can in keeping things going. And trust me, the teachers I talk to, they want to be in school. They want to be here. And I think you're going to hear some information today about the changes to quarantine and changes for contact tracing that are coming down, which are a step closer to keeping more kids in school and keeping things open, even a greater chance there. So some of the changes are they're not negative. They're positive in terms of continuing to keep more kids in school and staff in school and supporting that. But we do have staff, we do have students, obviously, as you know, in departments that can be impacted and that can be crippling for us. So we're continuing to do that. We're continuing to stay focused on the goal of in-person. And if we don't meet it, if we fall short of it, it's not from a lack of effort. And I'm proud of the effort that our team is putting in on a consistent basis. So we're having the same things that Philadelphia and these other districts that you see. Right now, we've been able to continue to piece it together with sometimes very closely with extra coverages, or maybe there's someone that's not certified helping out in there and doing all those things to keep the kids coming in every day, because that's where they need to be. With that being said, I know we had a snow day last week, so I shared some of the pictures that were sent to us, because I know we still do have some, we still believe in the snow day and want kids to enjoy it. So we asked some families to send stuff in. There's one young lady that's actually baking, I assume. So it's not all out in the snow, but just share those pictures, some of those pictures that were shared with us. Because I do want to share with the snow day, which we call emergency days or snow days. We've already used two, one because of Ida back in early September, and now just one last week. So I'll just kind of go over, these are the three situations that we have in front of us moving forward. More information will be shared with families tomorrow in the Friday update to give more details. And you also probably saw that last Friday when you saw certain schools were closed, certain schools were virtual, certain schools were flexible days. I'm going to do my best to explain the difference. So we're all familiar with the traditional snow day, emergency days. There's no school. Everyone's off for the day. We have 3 of those built into the calendar. We've already used 2. So we have 1 sitting there still. Plus we have 2 others that are in the calendar as additional makeup days if we had to go into additional ones, which would be April 14th and April 18th. That's the Thursday and Monday around spring break. Not a very popular usage of time, but that's what's in the calendar. We'd prefer to not have to touch those days if we can. But those are the days that are built in there to remove those days as you get closer to the holidays. Again, not something that I'm interested in doing. That's why we have these other solutions that are potentially helpful moving forward. So we're at 2. Everyone's familiar with the snow day. And again, I know we try to make that call as early as we can to help our families adjust. Then you may have heard or know that the board approved back in August or September, FID days, flexible instructional days. These are days where we can provide, and will count as a school day, and they provide asynchronous school with support from a teacher at some point during the day, whether it's Zoom or email access to them. We have the ability to use up to 5 of these. We can use 0, and then obviously any number up to 5. So this would be where work is posted by, right now we say 9 o'clock for secondary students and 10 o'clock for elementary students. That gives our teachers time, if it's happened the calls in the morning, to get the work together, get it up on the right site that they're familiar with, and then that will be the drop to date time to have that in there. And then the work is worked on flexibly through the course of the day, asynchronously, whatever it is, and it's submitted by a certain point at the end of the day or later in the afternoon, and that will count for a school day from us. As with the submission, I know Mrs. Bast led that submission through the state as our program has been approved, and we can use up to 5 of those. The tricky part here is flexible instructional days need to be the entire district at one time, or I think if we had to go one building this way, that would count as one of our 5 for the district. So typically you see it as a full district thing. So that plays into some of those decisions. It's not like each school gets 5. This is a district-wide flexible instructional day. So I did hear of a district locally that had to have most students go virtual, but because this group of students didn't have devices at home, they were flexible instructional asynchronous. I don't know how that's their issue, how to calculate that with the state. But so we'll keep learning on that. But that's another option that if you would see FID, flexible instructional day, it would be an asynchronous day with support. Our teachers would provide the work by a certain period of time. They would be available at some point during the day for follow-up and support. And that counts for a day. The work is submitted, graded, or assessed, and that counts for the day. So you can see some potential scenarios there. Maybe this is a day after a second day of snow where, you know, it's not a big snow day, but it's still time to get some work done. There's a lot of different parameters in there, but we have, again, up to 5. So that can continue to preserve the calendar as best we can, if that's there. And then we have wrong way. Then we have too far. It's in here somewhere, I promise. Maybe not.
Virtual instruction days?
Yeah, is that?
That right there, virtual instruction days?
Yeah, it doesn't look right. Title's wrong. So forget, I'll fix that title. It should, these are the virtual instructional days. I'm not sure why, maybe I didn't copy it over right. Virtual instructional days. So this is live virtual classes similar to what we had last year, not on a full day schedule, but definitely following along where you need to zoom into your class at a certain period of time. It's blocked out in the secondary level, it's blocked out by period or block. In the elementary level, it's blocked out by subject for your main teacher to support you through that. And it looks very similar. That, again, that counts as a day. It's more, you know, in tune. Virtual classes, there's a block of an hour or so for lunch. In the elementary, there's definitely some time built in for a break. And also the end of the day, there's some time for teachers to be available for support, remediation, and other ways to connect with them. So again, that's a third choice here of the virtual schedule. So again, I apologize for the title, but so you can get a layout there. So we have options moving forward to help preserve the calendar as best we can, and the different options that are there for virtual day, a flexible instructional day, as well as the traditional snow day and or emergency day. And then finally, just some additional information. We still have available to us 2-hour and 3-hour delays and or early dismissals. Those are still on the table for days that we happen to be coming in late. Last Friday was, you know, maybe could have done a 2-hour or 3-hour delay. At the time, we were trying to make the best decision with that. But those are still on the table as well to continue to maintain the calendar as well as in-person instruction. But again, everyone here knows better than I do that when talking with our team at 4 a.m., we're worried about roads that are in Pennsburg, East Greenville, as well as up in Hereford Hills and other areas. So we have to be mindful that it's the entire district that call is being made for. Even though if you open your window, you may see nothing. It definitely has impact. So we are aware. We have a service that sends us updates, and you know, those are sleepless nights. But we're up pretty early with people on the road at the buildings, making sure that the call is going to be the right call. So all the information will be updated if it's not already on our website. You know, our website was down a little bit last week from another issue, so we didn't have back end access, but we will get that up as we get our communication out for the information on those 3 options: traditional snow day, flexible instructional day, and the virtual day. So that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Dr. Roche. We will move on to our student representative to the board report, Mr. Enoch Bedelia.
All right, so we have a district choir concert on January 14th at the middle school. We're going to have off on Monday, the Martin Luther King Day. Midterm exam will start on January 21st and will last until January 26th. And I think they sent out a schedule for that. If they didn't, it's going to be out soon. The end of the second working period is going to be on Wednesday, January 26th. And the start of the third working period is going to be Thursday, January 27th. We're going to have an in-service day on January 28th. We're halfway through the winter sports season, no shutdown, so we're doing good there. Teams are doing a nice job of following COVID protocols. And report cards are going to be sent out on February 4th, 2022. That's the end of our report.
Thank you. We will move on to the Solicitor's Report and Sunshine Act announcements. Mr. Summers.
Thank you, Madam President. I do not have any Sunshine Act announcement tonight. But with regard to the Solicitor's Report, just in terms of legal developments since the board last met in December, the most noteworthy legal development is that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court issued a decision in a case involving the acting Secretary of Health's the Pennsylvania Department of Health, their acting secretary's mask order, statewide mask requirement. In the case, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court upheld the lower court, the Commonwealth Court's decision, saying that the acting Secretary of Health did not follow the proper procedures that are required for developing a regulation. They found that the statewide mask order was in effect a regulation of the Department of Health, and that The acting secretary did not follow the procedures that are required in order to develop a regulation, and as a result, the order was void essentially from the start because it did not follow in accordance with the procedures that are required for developing a regulation. So as a result of that decision, there was no longer a statewide mask order in effect, and the decision with regard to masking returned to the local school district level. Just as an aside, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, PSBA, their advocacy on the issue was that that was what they were requesting, was that the decision about masking and the circumstances under which masks should be required is best left to local control and local school districts. And essentially that's what the Supreme Court's decision did. It is noteworthy that the court observed that they were not making a decision about the effectiveness of masks or whether masks are a good idea or a bad idea. They just observed that this acting Secretary of Health did not follow the proper protocols. So that leaves us with, again, back to local control. In terms of the Upper Perkiomen School District, when the district most recently revised its health and safety plan, it addressed the scenario under which the acting Secretary of Health order was voided and said, in the event that the statewide mask order is voided, here is what will happen. And what will happen is that depending upon the level of community spread within the community will dictate whether or not there is masking. At the two higher levels, masking would be required. And at the two lower levels of community transmission, masking would be optional under the plan. With regard to what authority the board has, I think it's important to note that federal legislation, which is commonly referred to as ESSER funds, funds that have been made available to school districts through several different federal laws, what they require and what the state has said that school districts are required to do in order to receive that funding is to develop a health and safety plan. So every school district throughout the Commonwealth has adopted a health and safety plan. Those health and safety plans need to address certain issues. And the issues that those health and safety plans need to address are things like cleaning of school buildings, air filtration, contact tracing, and as well as face coverings. What that requirement says is that every school district must have a policy with regard to those issues. So in order to be eligible for ESSER funding, it doesn't say that you have to require masking. It just says that your school district has to have a policy on masking. And your policy could be, we're recommending masking, or masking is optional. It's entirely at the discretion of each local school district. With regard to the authority of school districts, certainly the ESSER legislation and the guidance from the State Department of Education has said that school districts have the authority to require masking. Most commonly, the legal authority that's pointed to is the Pennsylvania Public School Code, which allows school boards to adopt reasonable rules and regulations governing their operations. There are a number of court decisions over time that have looked at school district authority under the school codes and upheld school regulations as long as they were viewed as reasonable. At this point in time, my understanding is that just about every school district in Montgomery County has one form of a mask requirement or another, in terms of some are masking under all circumstances, some are masking under, depending upon the level of community spread, some are masking at this particular moment, given the current numbers, but with an anticipated removal of that requirement or review of that requirement at some point in the future. So as there are questions, a presentation later about the district's health and safety plan, revisions to it, certainly happy to answer any legal questions at that point. But where we are as far as the authority of the board is you have wide authority to decide what you are going to require within the school district or not. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Next, hoping everybody had a chance to review the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Thank you. Any comments? John? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. The next portion of our meeting is our public comments on action items. So this is the time when we invite anybody who'd like to make a comment on any of the action items. Please come down, state your name, your municipality, and go ahead and speak.
Thank you, Madam President. I also forgot to mention during my report that during the comment, I have a timer and I will hold up a sheet when there is 1 minute of your time left, 30 seconds of your time left, and then just a sheet that says time up. So if you keep an eye on my pieces of paper while you're speaking every once in a while, that'll let you know where you stand. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Bob LaSalle. I am a resident of Hereford Township. I'm a special education teacher at our high school, and I'm president of UPEA. As UPEA president, I'm honored to represent about 240 Upper Perk teachers. As a staff, we recognize the struggle that the students, parents, and teachers had with virtual instruction last year. I believe that every teacher went above and beyond to make virtual instruction not just work, but work very well. However, as teachers, we know there is no substitute for having students in front of us in person. Prior to this evening's meeting, UPEA members were surveyed as to their feelings towards the current masking policy in the health and safety plan. UPEA members overwhelmingly support maintaining current masking policy. We hope this allows us to continue to deliver instruction in person, which is best for students. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, an administrator, or a board member, you want to do what is best for kids. Keeping our students and staff as safe as we can while keeping our schools open should be the goal. Our current health and safety plan for masking has helped make that possible. It is imperative that we maintain the strong mitigation efforts that have been established, which hopefully allows our schools to remain open. This is best for students, it is best for parents, and is best for all of our staff. Our entire community benefits from our buildings being open safely, and masking has been an effective strategy for allowing that to occur. Please do your part in ensuring that our buildings stay open and our children stay safe by continuing with the administration's recommended health and safety plan, including the masking policy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Next. Hi, welcome.
Hello, good evening. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of the board
Could you
tonight.
just do me a favor for the record and just state your name
Yeah.
and where you're from? That's all.
My name is Chris Lash. I'm from Marlboro Township. I'm an Upper Perk grad, currently living in Upper Perk School District. I have 2 kids in the school district. I'm one of the directors for Upper Perk Youth Lacrosse Program. I'd like to address the board in the reference to the motion that's later in the agenda and the fees for facility usage. Upper Perk Lacrosse is a nonprofit youth program. We teach the fundamentals of lacrosse. We teach the fundamentals of sports to Upper Perk kids. Some of the benefits are fitness, mental sharpness, improved coordination, productive habits, and better socialization, which makes better children in school. We also, as Upper Perk Lacrosse, we have a scholarship program for those in need in our district who can't afford to pay for the sport. We provide the fees prepaid, and we also provide equipment for the kids. Having said that, we don't have the funds in our budget to pay for rental fees to use school facilities at this time. In the future, we may, but currently we don't. And we appreciate the use of these facilities that the school district allows us to use, and we're grateful for them. We would like for the motion to pass tonight for us and other organizations that I've been involved with wrestling, and we're involved with field hockey and several other organizations that are on this list. So I just want to mention that, say thanks, hope it passes, and we appreciate your time and your consideration. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Welcome and thank you.
I'm Vicki Lightcap from Pennsburg Borough. First of all, the health safety plan includes taking into account all public comment related to the development of and the subsequent revisions to the health safety plan. So putting a 2-minute limit is not conducive for allowing the community to be able to talk. That's the first thing. Second, with the recent legislation that went down today, the federal government does not have the authority to tell us that we have to mask and take care of the health of our own personal selves and our families. It is not up to the government to make those decisions for us. The state cannot make those decisions for us. And the reason that the secretary was because there is no more an emergency declaration. There is no more an emergency declaration at the county. I read through all of the county's recommendations for school district, K through 12. And in it, there wasn't anything that was required except for riding on public, which would be our school buses for the school districts. They cannot mandate either. They can only recommend. And as your solicitor had told you, which your solicitor's firm represents about 7 of the 23 school districts in Montgomery County, what he had said to you, that it is up to you to decide. So it's up to you to listen to us and to give it back to the parents to decide what is healthy for their children and for their families. That is my request. And when the vote comes down, I would also request that it would be a roll call vote so that we know which each individual person voted on this health safety plan when you have a chance to become leaders of this area and leaders in Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jeff Porsche, Red Hill. The masking should be optional for our students. It is our choice as parents, how our kids are raised and how they are kept healthy. We know that these masks seem to not be working. The health and safety plan is not working. The kids are contact traced and sent home, and they are healthy. 3 out of my 4 were sent home that were healthy, never got COVID, and they lost a lot of time and a lot of education. So the only thing the health and safety plan is doing is keeping our kids home. So I urge you that you do change the plan this evening and also a roll call vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Rachel Kalbach, Red Hill. You notice probably the same faces showing up here. I have 5 kids at home. My husband stays home with my kids so I can be here. I'm missing time just like you all are with your family. Today is the 7th time that my healthy kids have had to quarantine since the end of November. That's wrong. We're showing up because we want you all to listen to us. We are going to stop showing up. And I know that's not what you want. You want parents involved. You want that line of communication, like you said, to be open. And we are telling you, give us the option. We understand what's at stake. We have all lost loved ones, whether because of COVID or with COVID or whatever. We understand what's at stake. I understand you have the authority to change that. Please uphold the Constitution that you all have claimed when you all swore in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next. Is there anybody else? Welcome. Just state your name and your municipality.
Nicole Benson, Red Hill. Obviously, we know masks don't stop the spread of COVID-19. It has been proven. We also are now seeing more that vaccines are doing a lot of harm to many individuals. We don't know what's in the ingredients that are in these or the possible long-term side effects, not to mention they do not stop you from getting or spreading the virus. Yet you encourage the children of your community to shoot toxins into their bodies by having vaccines clinics at your schools. Stop pretending that you care about our children. If you really cared, you wouldn't feel the need to follow these asinine rules set forth by the CDC. Let's remember, the CDC is not a lawmaking body. The recommendations can be completely ignored without any legal ramifications. We now know why that is, because of the ESSER funds. It requires masking, quarantine, vaccine clinics, etc., to receive money from the federal government to commit this awful, unlawful tyranny and imprisonment of our children. How much do you get for doing that? I'll tell you, over $2.3 million. I have come to realize, even if you don't agree with these regulations that could potentially be harming our children and not actually helping, you are deciding to follow the money. Shocker. Well, I think it's time you give that money back. It's time you actually start to have sincere concern for our children's health and safety. This is my last time asking. Please stop following the money and actually do what's best for the people of your community. Start by listening to our wishes like you ask. Start to follow the science. If you want to keep being tyrants, then it is time for me to take the next step and to file a lawsuit. And I hope more parents follow me in doing that. I want to bring up one more thing. Seeing what's happening in these hospitals with doctors and nurses testing positive with COVID and being able to work and risk passing COVID to a healthy individual, but yet our children can't come to school while healthy without a mask on, just goes to show you what's really going on here. There is no longer anyone's concern over our health. It has always been about the money. With all the recent and contradicting information coming out about the CDC, from the CDC and FDA, and no real protocols being followed, it just makes every single one of you look like fools.
Thank you for your comment. Is that all? All right. With that, we'll conclude public comments on action items. And remember, there is another time at the end of the meeting. So if you do have more that you wanted to say, there is another period at the end. Next, I'd like to ask for approval of minutes from our December 6th reorg meeting and the regular school board. Didn't even have to finish. Thanks. Any comments? No? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so next we're going to move on to our presentations and discussion. First one up is the School Director Recognition Month.
Oh, look how cute.
Thank you very much. In honor of the commitment and time school board directors volunteer on behalf of the Upper Perkiomen schools and the local Upper Perkiomen Valley community, January is designated School Director Recognition Month. The work of these 9 public servants is vital to the success of our students and schools. From voting on budgets to adopting policy to conducting comprehensive planning and replying to questions and concerns from our parents and community, school boards make key decisions that drive public education in the direction of our Upper Perkiomen schools. The work is both complex and diverse. School directors devote, on average, 10 hours each per month to board business, which has only been made more challenging by the pandemic and the related issues affecting the well-being of our students and families. Board service is unpaid, and school directors are often motivated to pursue the role out of a desire to benefit their community. The majority of school board directors indicate their primary reason for serving is to give back or contribute to public education or to improve the educational outcomes for the students in their community. In general, about 42% of school directors serve the district they once attended as a student. School directors are locally elected officials focused on improving the communities in which they live, and they're also our fellow neighbors, local leaders, co-workers, parents, and friends. As citizens and parents, the success of our school is a collective interest. This month, we set aside the time to recognize our current school directors some of you who have been elected multiple terms, and others who are just 1 month into their new position. Please join me in thanking and showing our appreciation for the time and effort our school board members put towards the goal of making the education experience for our students and families at the forefront of all the challenges that they may face. Their efforts help ensure that each student has opportunities to thrive and that our public schools remain pathways to a bright future. At this time, I would ask Enoch Padilla, our student representative, and I will help him as well. We will be presenting our school members with a certificate of recognition on their commitment to the students and families of the Upper Perkiomen community, as well as a small token of appreciation that we hope you wear with pride when representing Upper Perk. So thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
I was hoping we had two students. I was hoping we had two students.
I know, Thank you very much, Dr. Rose. I'd like to have the presentation and discussion on the revised health and safety plan.
Okay, I will start it off here and then I'll pass off to Dr. Verena for some of the other details that are part of that. I know Mr. Ellie was looking forward to seeing a lot of data tonight, as he does enjoy that part. I'm going to continue to be consistent with the information that's shared. You remember these colors: low, moderate, substantial, and high, based upon the cases. Here are the numbers most recently in the Upper Perk Montgomery County municipalities. So there's East Greenville, Green Lane, Marlboro, Pennsburg, Red Hill, Upper Hanover, and then the overall aggregate at the bottom. Seeing cases there that are tipping the scales, the highest ones we've seen in terms of the cases per 100,000 for that. And you can see the, again, they probably lag by a little bit, but these numbers again come out on Tuesday, so we'll get another set early next week. And then the positivity rate, so it's a 14-day PCR positivity rate again. So it's basically 1 in every 3 tests were positive over the course of those last 2 weeks there. This is a new chart that if you would go to see on the website, it kind of combine this. So the top 2 bars there are specific Monco numbers broke out. Again, the same positivity in the first column, and then, incidents in the first column, row across, and positivity. And then when you look lower, the counties, the collar counties that are around us, Berks, Bucks, Chester, and Lehigh, you can see both of their numbers are in there in the same box there. Again, just showing the comparison of where we're compared to often, what's going on in those numbers as well. These numbers are coming out on Friday, so there'll be a new set of numbers tomorrow from the state on the county numbers. These are the district acuity numbers they're in here since November. So you can see the growth there in terms of positive cases, close contacts, and then total people quarantined, totaled at the end of the month. So if you're looking at the bottom row there, totals. So Marlboro, 9 positives, 39 close contacts, and 48 total quarantined over the course of that month. In Hereford and 4-5 middle school and high school. Just sharing this growth piece. Again, this information is available on the website and updated weekly. So this will be December. Yeah, you said a comment was just made a lot at the middle school. Honestly, each school has had their own kind of week and a half or 2 weeks where it really spikes inside the numbers there. And then this so far is January. This does not include last Friday, obviously, because we were out, and does not include tomorrow's numbers that will be updated, so that row for 114 will again be updated, but you can see the jump there in terms of that. Now, when you see this chart moving forward into the next couple of weeks, if after the end of this presentation, we share and Dr. Frenda walks through a little bit how the close contact numbers should drive down tremendously because we're not moving forward with close contacting if the health and safety plan is approved as is, the close contacts will be removed from the classroom as well as from the bus moving forward. So that's a step towards additional, less people being quarantined, more students, as the comment is made, healthy students staying in school with less close contact tracing. So again, showing you the acuity numbers. Again, this information is always available on the web. So I'm going to ask Dr. Frida to kind of walk you through the steps. I know the board is familiar with all the different alphabetic letters that work your way through the steps of the plan. And we'll walk through that here and answer any questions. But information that has come in, I know we sent a communication out to all our families during winter break because the county had let us know that they were following the CDC, going from 10 days down to 5 days. And we knew that impacted a lot of staff as well as families and students that could come back right after the break. So we wanted to get that information out to them as soon as possible. Since then, we'd have three, maybe 4 sets of additional guidance and conversations to get to the presentation that is here today. We were happy that we got this yesterday, 2 days ago, but it's still continuing to be clarified as we go through. So this is the best that we have where we are right now, but we think it's progress towards not being as restrictive, but it is tied to the masking piece. So I'll just let me know when to click forward.
Thanks. So as Dr. Roach indicated, I'm not going to go through all 9 sections of the health and safety plan. The bulk of the health and safety plan will remain the same. Section A, which is masking. It doesn't.
Hello?
That's better.
Sorry, everyone. This one works. So as I indicated, I'm not going to go through all 9 sections. I will highlight the sections where either we're going to reinforce a recommendation and try to explain why that recommendation was made, and then places where there is a change in a section of the health and safety plan. So first and foremost is masking. As was indicated in the September 9th Health and Safety Plan for approval, the district is still recommending universal masking while we are in substantial and high levels of transmission. Sections B, C, and D, which talk about modifying facilities, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, and cleaning and maintaining healthy, safe facilities, remains the same as it was in September. Those mitigation efforts are consistent, and the district is not recommending any change to them at that time. So this is an area, Section E, in which we do take our guidance from Montgomery County Office of Public Health, and it talks about the school exclusion recommendations. As Dr. Roach indicated, these recommendations have changed no less than 5 times since December 28th. However, they have gone to identify who is a close contact and what are those exceptions. And so I want to just very clearly mention them today, that as of the 111 guidance, close contacts are still individuals within a classroom who are closer than 3 feet for 15 minutes or more consecutively. The guidance also indicates that, I know it is right now. Vaccination status still allows you to be exempt unless you are symptomatic. Students in schools who are within 3 to 6 feet for 15 minutes or more and not wearing a mask are still considered close contacts, and continual exposure to somebody at home who has tested positive. However, in each of those close contacts, I intentionally, for public purposes and for the board's information, put behind it the caveat of exception, which is vaccination status. That is in the guidance up and including the one we received this week. So the exceptions, truthfully, are vaccinated adults 18 and over who have received the primary series plus booster. This actually just changed this afternoon. Plus booster 2 weeks beyond the booster was earlier this week. At this point, it's 18 and over. At the time of your booster, you're deemed fully vaccinated. 5 to 17-year-olds with their primary series, and people who have previously tested positive within a 90-day post-positive PCR test. So I think the one nuance to all of this is you have to be asymptomatic. We continue to encourage people who are sick to stay home. And that's for an unsundry amount of communicable diseases. So if you are sick, stay home. So I did try to add language there for clarity's sake. So I referenced section A and one of the reasons the district continues to recommend masking. And I've tried to spell out sort of where we are as of 1/13, so where we are as of today. The district is operating using symptomatic testing, voluntary for families, test to stay. So anybody who is willing to test, who has been deemed a close contact from the criteria that I just described, can test in a cadence of the first day you've been identified, 3 days after, and then 5 days after. That changed when the quarantine was reduced to 5 days. So it's point of notification and day 5. And they can now be at-home tests. So the one provision that we've been working through since the first of the year when we came back was at-home tests were allowable. We just simply ask that parents send us notification of that. We ask a series of questions about the brand, and then, we are working with the information families give us. One of the challenges is we, of course, know that testing supplies are at a premium, and I was just at Professional Pharmacy, and I think they had a couple. So I know that they are not readily available. The one change that the County Office of Public Health has offered the districts in terms of recommendations is the new exclusion criteria, which is mask to stay. And I think this addresses some of the quarantine concerns. I heard Rachel mention, 7 times your children were quarantined. And if you were not testing, essentially there was no provision for you to not quarantine. If masks are mandatory in a health and safety plan per the recommendation, then the county has agreed that masking to stay. Now, that seems counterintuitive, I know, because if you're mask required, then you already are masking. But if we are applying universal masking as a mitigation strategy, close contacts will only be sought in the cafeteria and in any in extracurriculars. So theater, band, sports, those 2 environments. And quarantine will not be required with exception to those environments. However, you would have to mask to participate in those, even in high exertion. So that's the one criteria. The other piece of this for staff is if you are staff only, if you are a household contact, you can test to stay, which means if you agree to a cadence of daily testing for 10 days, you can stay. Now, keep in mind, these are just for close contacts. So generally speaking, we're talking about individuals who are not vaccinated. So I need to be clear. That's sometimes the hiccup here. You have to remember, we have to apply the criteria and then the mitigation strategy. So what I've tried to do is create a graphic to explain this because it does get a little nuanced. So if you are positive, the guidance is very clear that you isolate for 5 days. You can return wearing a mask, now in a mask mandatory environment. That shouldn't be an issue. And then if you choose not to mask, so let's say we're mask optional, you isolate, you mask to return. If you do not want to mask, you must isolate for 5 more days. So ultimately, in an environment where we are mask optional, it is likely that positive cases who do not want to mask will quarantine for 10 days. So household contacts. Household contacts, the guidance is clear. You must be 10, it's 10 days. So if you are unvaccinated and you have somebody in your home who is positive, the quarantine is 10 days. And it's 10 days from the onset of symptoms. It is not necessarily 10 days. So we do ask the question, what was the date of the PCR test of the positive? Often symptoms start before a positive test. The one caveat there is test to stay for staff who could be tested during that time frame and remain teaching. And then we would return to school on the 11th day. So if this is the difference, I tried to make it clear. If we apply universal masking, we are going to look at the household, the cafeteria, and in extracurriculars. We'll look in those environments based on the guidance from OPH. We will identify close contacts. And as long as everybody is masked to participate, you can continue to participate in extracurriculars. They do require a test between days 4 and 6. It does not have to be done by the school district. It can be done at home, and then you can return. So ultimately, in this environment of universal masking, there will be very few students, essentially, who must quarantine. The only students who would quarantine are students who refuse, essentially, who are symptomatic, if that makes sense. If you're sick, you should stay home. Yeah. All right, so in a mask optional environment, we will look in every setting across the district: household, classrooms, cafeteria, transportation, much like we do right now. We'll identify close contacts based on the county criteria. You will be issued a 5-day quarantine. You can return to school and mask days 6 through 10, and you can still participate in activities if you're masked. And then day 11, if we're mask optional, you don't need to wear it. Now, you could also say, I'm not going to wear a mask when I come back on day 6 through 10, which we would then quarantine you for another 5 days, and you would return on day 11. So it is, and I can see it's confusing. So
a little bit on close contact for the home. So
yep.
if I am positive, my daughter is a close contact.
So she would not be vaccinated, right?
Let's do
yep.
If she's vaccinated,
she's not a close contact. Yes.
If she's not vaccinated, she has to stay home for 5 days.
Correct.
Regardless.
10.
Regardless. Oh, you can?
You are not, you may not speak out.
She wasn't here when you registered.
I'm sorry, apparently you weren't here for the begin. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Penny Pecker said you weren't here. Okay. Thank you for calming down. I know this is an emotional issue, but we are here to conduct business. All right, yes, please stop interrupting and let's hear the answer to the question.
So,
you hear me on this here microphone. You guys can't hear this microphone?
Yeah, can we give her another one?
So my question was around close contact at home and what I would do if I was positive as a parent, and if my daughter was tested positive and was vaccinated, she would not have to quarantine and she could return to school as long as she was asymptomatic.
So yes, let's take that. So if Rayanne and I are in the same home and I'm positive, Rayanne is vaccinated. Let's just pretend. We're just going to pretend, Rayanne. Just pretend, okay? Okay. So Rayanne, you're right. Rayanne's vaccinated. I'm positive. I stay home 5 days. I can return to school. I have to mask from days 6 through 10. So I'm staying home for 5, masking 6 through 10. Rayanne is vaccinated. She's not a close contact. However, if she becomes symptomatic, then she stays home, if that makes sense. Now, I'm just telling you what it says, right? So now, if we live in the same home, I'm positive, Rayanne is not vaccinated. I stay home 5 days. I can come back and mask days 6 through 10. Rayanne still has to stay home through the 5 days of my isolation for continued exposure, plus 5 days.
So 10.
It's 10.
I'm not sick at all.
No, you don't. So that is the particular nuance in the guidance. And I certainly, I hear the audience. I'm conveying the guidance.
One more question. What you're saying right now is if masking is optional. If we were to say universal masking every day, every month, what happens? So
in universal masking, we will still look at household close contacts who are vaccinated. However, they could come back and mask.
Who would come back?
The contact. We both could come back and just assure masking.
Regardless of vaccination status.
Yes. Yes. In a mask mandatory health and safety plan, there is very limited quarantine required.
Okay.
Okay, so how do you know somebody else in the household is sick?
How do we know? I mean, truthfully, we ask people and we trust them when they tell us. I mean, that is, I think way back when this started, we said, honesty and transparency are key to being able to do any of this. And we do, and we don't. In full disclosure, in working with our nurses, we trust what people tell us because that we have to.
But didn't we recently have a family where somebody had COVID and the 4 kids were in our building?
So I can tell you that not everybody is honest.
Okay. And that's the case in every school.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. Not everybody is honest.
Yeah.
Oh, on to slide 20. Sorry. So sections GH and I are also essentially identical. The district has supported our county in vaccination. We send out information. Obviously, vaccinations are voluntary. I can tell you at this point, in terms of it being memorialized in the work that we do with nurses, it is not there yet, but religious exemption will continue to apply. Please know that it is not in the required vaccinations at this moment. Accommodations still apply under IDEA and ADA, and we still coordinate with the Montgomery County Office of Public Health, the CHOP Policy Lab, and they utilize the CDC information. So I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
We can, if you'd like, we can start down at this end. Rayanne, do you have any questions? I'm sorry, Ms. Hopkin. Mr. Prego, do you have any questions?
There we go. In regards to the antigen testing being required, when we have the universal masking coming back, or if you get the tests, was it between days 4 and 6 after exposure? Does the school plan on providing those tests to families?
So you can utilize an at-home test. That would be at your own disposal, or we have rapid antigen tests available if families want to test. So.
Okay, so they can come to you for it if they can't get a hold of one, or, okay.
And, okay, Mr. Elliott?
Just a follow. Just to follow up to that question, how exactly would they email you directly? Would they contact the school nurse?
So when notifications are sent, it would be similar to what we're doing right now. We test to stay for our close contacts, we test to remain. They would mask and remain, they just go to the nurse. And we keep an internal log of the individuals who are coming for testing, and then they come and test and go on their way.
And for any questions, you would direct them to talk to their school nurse.
School nurse, principal, myself.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Penpeck, do you have a question?
Mr. Summers. Given the current state of the school district relative to COVID, what in your opinion is the district's minimal standard of reasonable care moving forward with this plan?
With regard to, I think the question is legally, what is the district permitted to do? And then what liability may occur regardless of what the decision is. And as I mentioned earlier, clearly at this moment, the school district has the authority with specific regard to the health and safety plan. The areas that the district has authority on are masking. With regard to the quarantine requirements, those are not set by the district. They're not, the district does not establish those. So all of the items that were just reviewed in terms of the time periods that individuals need to quarantine for, who is permitted to mask to stay versus not, test to stay versus not, any differences in terms of whether someone is vaccinated or not. I think it's important to note that none of that is set by the school district, that is all set by the county Office of Public Health, and they have adopted through their health code requirements for school districts. In terms of liability, I think, to be honest, there is great uncertainty in terms of what is the liability of a school district with regard to COVID-19. There have been very few, if any, cases involving school district liability for the contraction of COVID. I am aware of attempts throughout the country to bring such claims. I'm aware of one such lawsuit that was brought against the school district that did not require masking. They were masking optional. There were individuals who became sick, and they have attempted to sue that school district for not having masking in place. There was no outcome to that particular case. Certainly, if there were an incident in which the school district were sued relative to COVID, and we were defending ourselves, one strategy that we would use would certainly be to point to the ways in which we were complying with any recommendations that are made by health agencies with regard to what we're supposed to do to keep students safe. And I would say that the current health and safety plan, as well as the proposed health and safety plan, if we're specifically talking about masking, the plan and the way in which masking is optional under certain elements of our plan, where we are in lower moderate community spread, and then as there are higher numbers of community cases, under those circumstances when we mask, that is consistent with the guidance that public health agencies are issuing. And so certainly if someone is dissatisfied with our COVID protocols, and if we would ever have a claim by someone who claimed that we didn't adequately protect against it, we would point to the fact that we are acting and have acted in accordance with public health guidance.
Thank you. I'm just trying to understand the layers of protection we need to have relative to maintaining that minimal standard of reasonable care. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So I guess the only question that I can think of at the moment is, how are we taking into consideration that those household contacts that are vaccinated and come to school? How are we taking into account that obviously people that are vaccinated are still getting it and they're still transmitting it.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately the recommendation for continued masking is the recommendation of the county to slow this rate. I mean, that's the best answer I have for you.
I know it's not an easy question and it's not an easy answer. I understand that. I think that's all I have for the moment.
The only other question that I think I have right now is JP brought up about the testing to return. So do we have to make people test to return? In what situation do they have to test? In what situation can we say, as long as you're not symptomatic and your X days have gone by, or what is that? I just want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Sure. So in mask to stay, a test is required. And so that's why I tried to bold it, because I don't want to give the illusion that that is not a requirement of mask to stay in this guidance. Where that testing occurs is at the determination of the family. We can do it, and/or it can be done at home.
So if universal masking is required, testing is still required. Either way, at some point, the child will have to take a test between days 4 and 6.
That is correct.
And we can do it here at the district, we'll offer it, or if you can find one at CVS or whatever it is.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Follow up on Ms. McCormick's question. What if the student doesn't take a test? And you're day 11, 14, 15, whatever. What's the student's status?
So in this process, so once you're at day 11, that you return. I mean, that's it. So you do not need, and that's the other part of the clarity. You do not need a negative test to return once you have completed the quarantine timeframe. And and in full disclosure, there are some families who do not want to test, and we respect that.
Exactly.
They take the quarantine.
Exactly. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
I have another question. This information is so confusing and constantly changing. How do you ensure that all the principals are handling it all the same way?
So I mean, that's a really good question. And I can tell you they're probably sick and tired of meeting with me. There is a lot of communication. What I do is every time guidance comes out, I put a checklist together, an if-then together, and then we meet about it, we talk about it. I do the same with our school nurses. This has been particularly challenging because we've had 5 sets of guidance in a very short period of time. So the turnaround, and some of our principals are here in the audience, and it's very difficult. And if you had a child who was on quarantine prior to the break, you probably experienced that their quarantine ended or was shortened and they could return on January 3rd. When some students were household contacts and they quarantined for 20 days because prior to break, they were home 20 days. So, even our families are experiencing a little bit of that whiplash. I mean, that's how I describe it. But that is what it is. We communicate very readily. The bulk of my job is dissecting and communicating what comes out. And I get a lot of phone calls.
So we will have a chance to have more discussion. So if you do think of another question, when we have the motion to approve the revised health and safety plan, you can ask the question then. But if everyone thinks they're done asking questions right now, does that seem, yeah, okay. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to our next presentation or discussion, which is board policy revision, the first reading for policy number 810, transportation. Mrs. Penny Pecker, are you going to be handling that, or Dr. Farina? Dr. Farina? Okay.
Yes, we get all the really good stuff, right? So policy 810, we actually revised it back in 2000. And this, in full disclosure, I'll take full responsibility when Mrs. Castle left. And before Mr. Doriso assumed the helm and overseeing transportation, the shift of the responsibility was to me, and through some bumpy learning through our daycare systems, we realized that perhaps the policy and the AR needed some more clarity. And so I thank the patients for Lifespan and the Y and our families as we worked through this. But ultimately, what you will see in the revised policy for 810, along with the child care form, are some revised language which makes it very clear about how we're transporting our children to get daycares in the district. And so of particular note, the one thing we have changed is when we got a new transportation company, there was a date issued for when they begin routing. We have bumped up the request for families to submit those daycare child care forms to June 1st. And that's to assist the transportation company in facilitating the runs and making sure kids are getting where they need to be. And so you'll notice that that was previously August and now it is June 1st. There was a question and it's a very vital one. Some people may not know what's happening by June 1st. We absolutely respect that. We also know we have families moving into the district after June 1st. We will work with everyone as they issue them, but we do and we will ask for June 1st for those to be submitted. You'll also see what eligible stops are. This particular bullet was something that was absent, and it was something I was applying incorrectly. So it was my fault, and some of you may remember some of those phone calls. And so what we did is we got some clarity around who we really were transporting. It was more students to different places than I even thought. And so eligible stops are accredited child daycares within 3 miles of that student's elementary boundary. All other stops to families, neighbors, friends must be within the elementary school boundary. So the district will transport you within 3 miles to any daycare, regardless of what elementary school you go to. And however, if you're going to an in-home, a grandparent or a friend, that has to be in your elementary school boundary. So there is a nuance to that we wanted to make folks clear about. You see it here today because there is a time factor. We understand our daycares communicate with their families, regularly. We wanted to give them the benefit of the time, and this will need 2 reads for adoption. And we feel like March with kindergarten registration, plus we can hand this out to our daycare providers in a timely manner so we can all start communicating the accurate policy to everyone in our community.
Just wanted the board to please take some time to read this policy. And when we were working on it a few months ago, it was important from my perspective that this information was disseminated accurately and timely. So Dr. Farina has assured me that the district will be contacting all the daycares and using whatever methodologies to get this information out, especially relative to the request form that will need to be completed by the families. If you have any questions, let us know.
May I ask a question? Thank you. May I ask 2 more questions then? So my question is this, with regard, I know you just talked a lot, but you said a lot too, so I'm just trying to digest everything. So with regards to that number 9, eligible stops, accredited child care centers within 3 miles, does that get the majority, because, we all know the main, that gets all those guys, right? Lifespan and Bed Hill and all that. Okay, all right, cool. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question. You mentioned about elementary schools. If a student's in 6th grade and needs to go to daycare, but they're at the middle school then? Do we transport them to daycare? No, okay.
Fourth and fifth. Yeah.
Fourth and fifth grade, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I assumed fourth and fifth
Gotcha.
fell within elementary. I
Just
was
wanna make
thinking more along, sixth grade,
Gotcha.
middle school. So. All right. Any other questions regarding the transportation policy? All right, so that was our first read. So next month is the second read. So if you haven't had a chance to look at it, we should all look at it, it sounds like. Next on the agenda is old business. This was a topic that came up last month, the professional development workshop for secondary professional staff from November 19th. Ms. Hofkin had asked us to put that under old business. I do believe that has been resolved. Is that not correct? Ms. Hofkin, was that resolved to your satisfaction?
Yes, it's been resolved.
No, it doesn't sound like that's on.
I did receive it.
Okay.
I'm wondering if anybody else had a chance to watch it.
There was a link in the board update. Oh. Yes. Do you remember what, yeah, it was about 3 weeks ago, I want to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it was updated. It was the first link didn't work and the second link did work. So it was updated in the board. If you'd like, I can put it back in for tomorrow.
Can you put it back in?
I'll put it back in for tomorrow. Not a problem.
I always kept looking at the bad.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to move on to new business. We will start with the personnel report.
Make motion to approve all personnel report, which is retirements, resignations, appointments, and leaves of absence.
Great. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question.
Yes.
Exit interviews?
Okay. Have we actually received any recent exit interviews? Oh, good. Great. That's good. We look forward to seeing those then. All right. So if there's not any more questions, all in favor? Any opposed? No, motion passes. Moving from the personnel report to action items. The first action item is action item A, a motion to approve the revised UPSD health and safety plan. Can I get a motion for that?
Second.
That's a motion and a second. So I will open the floor to discussion. I'm sure people probably have thoughts of 10 more questions, right?
I have two quick questions. So number one, the quarantine regulations, it's all set by the county, right?
Correct, it is in their exclusion.
Okay, thank you. The other question is for you. So with regards to those ESS, ER funds, right? As long as we have a plan, doesn't matter what's in it, but as long as we have the plan, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
In terms of the eligibility for funding.
Yes.
Yes, the district is, to be clear, the district does not need to require masking in order to receive funding through ESSER.
Okay, thank you.
Nor testing or anything else, correct? It's just, we just have to have a plan.
That addresses those
We could
issues.
say our plan is no plan.
Well, it has to be a little bit more specific than that, but yes, yes.
But okay, that's good. I wanted to follow up on Mr. Elliott's question and say, not only is it required by the county, but the Pennsylvania Department of Health also sets those exact same requirements, as does the CDC. The district or individual schools have no say whatsoever in the definition of a close contact or the vaccination status and how it affects. That is not a district decision. It is not a school decision. That comes from the public health officials directly. We have no say.
No say.
None whatsoever.
No say.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, please. I can hear you.
So my question is, well, not really a question, it's an observation. So I would like to see at some point that we, and I guess it's probably gonna be the county's level that why it's the way it is, but I feel like where we're at with the percentages and the amount of cases, the positivity rates, we're never getting there. At this point, even with this Omicron, we're never getting there. There's no way. Even when I don't take the 100,000 people for 100,000 people because I like real numbers. And last week we were at 239, so there's no way we're getting that. There's no way. So, and I just want to remind everyone to please fight DC because this is why we're never getting rid of this. That's it. Thank you.
Mrs. Cunningham, I will share that in the conversations with the county and the superintendents and CHOP, even what they're saying, although, you know, they're the people that are on the ground doing this, that we are close to the peak, if not through the peak of this surge, and we should see it by our next meeting. We should begin to see the downturn, which we can then have conversations about additional mitigation and those type of things. So, you know, I think what's in there now and what the county is providing is a step closer where we're seeing some lifting of some things or reductions of quarantines, or more students will be able to stay in. Just got to see if that holds through from the science.
I realize that's
Yeah.
the end goal. It just seems
Yeah.
like at this point, every day it's not getting any better. And it's just so much more transmissible, even if we're not getting as sick. That's my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Cunningham. Anyone else? Yep, please.
Oh, yeah. You gotta turn it on.
And then I think Ms. Hopkins.
I just wanted a clarification on the mask to stay criteria here. So if if a student is COVID positive, another student, they're both wearing masks. Does the asymptomatic student, they don't have to quarantine at all, regardless of vaccination status?
Correct.
Okay. That's the clarification I wanted. The vaccination status does not come into play with the mask to stay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if I can do this or not, but I could ask and you can say no. But Enoch is a student representative and I'd like to know what the students have to say if he wants to speak.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Test? All right, so personally, I think, well, I do have like a grandparent in my house, so I would personally wear a mask, but a lot of, students over and over and over say that they do want optional, so that's like the student's perspective. Personally, again, I would wear a mask if we go optional. But that's all, I guess.
Thank you. I really appreciate hearing that. Thank you. Mrs. Hopkins, did you have any more questions? No? Anybody else? Okay. No? So we have a motion and a second, and I know that it was requested that we do a roll call vote, so we will go ahead and do that. Mr. What did you say?
Dan.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. I thought Mrs. Penny Pecker had one more thing to say, so I stopped in the middle of my sentence. But yes, if you could do a roll call vote.
Yes. Sorry.
I didn't know you were going to be first.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. The next item on our action items is action item B, motion to approve an exemption from all space rental and weeknight custodial fees that would otherwise be imposed by board policy number 707 and its accompanying administrative regulations for the facility use requests that were submitted by the District 2. And then there's 4 different
I'll make that, yeah.
Second.
There's four different groups, the Takedown Club, the Youth Lacrosse, the Valley Soccer, and the Upper Perk Youth Field Hockey. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions, discussion?
I'd like to make a comment.
You go right ahead.
Number one, I'm excited to see so many people second this. I can't think of anything more awesome than us supporting one of the three A's, whether it's athletics, academics, or the arts. And this is part of supporting the programs for our youth. You know, we've all seen the studies, you've all seen the reports about how kids that are engaged in activities, be it band, be it lacrosse or football or cheerleading or whatever, how those kids do better in school, how those kids are just happier, like it really helps kids to be engaged. I saw it myself last year with my son, my youngest one, how he did so much better when he got a chance to play hoops with his buddies, especially during the virtual stuff. Like he was just a much happier kid when we got a chance to play sports. And it's so great that there are so many people. I mean, all these organizations that you see here before you tonight are volunteer organizations, right? We had Mr. Lash come up here tonight, right, of his own free time. All these coaches are out there busting their humps, giving their all, sending out emails, working on the weekends, working on weeknights, giving up their time to take care of our kids of our community. And I think that's something that we need to support. That's something we need to embrace. And again, I'm excited to approve this. I'm excited that there were a lot of seconds, and I hope everybody joins me in approving this. And I'd like to have a roll call vote for this too.
Okay. That's fine. We can absolutely, I don't think that's going to be an issue. Does anybody else have any comments? Yep, one more. Please pass it to Mrs. Hopkins.
Okay, just so we clear, this wasn't about getting rid of sports. This is about charging them to use the facilities.
Absolutely.
So there's still going to be sports whether they're paying or not paying. But I just want to clarify that. I'm not saying anything against it. I'm just clarifying.
The thing is,
Mrs. Hopkins, were you done? Mrs. Hopkins, were you done?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead then.
Yeah, we can go back. It's all right. So the fact is, if we're charging these organizations these really high fees, it's going to be hard for them to do anything. It's going to be hard for some of these organizations to survive. So in a way, we are kind of talking about the survival of these organizations. Because they're not for profit. I mean, we can look.
I believe the policy committee is currently doing that.
Yeah.
Are they not?
Yeah, that is the focus of this policy. I mean, the reason that this is, if we go back a little bit, when the policy committee was working on this, that we realized that we were not charging what was in the policy. So we were out of compliance, and the administration was asked to get in compliance. And when they got in compliance with the policy, those were the numbers that were astronomical.
Yeah.
So we as administrators need to follow the policy. Therefore, that's what was being initially charged. So that's why the exemptions were first discussed for Takedown and youth basketball. Was that November or December? So that's why these groups are following in suit. So please attend the policy meeting and have the conversations. And there's a lot of work. It could take several policy meetings for this to get fleshed out to understand the balance between the charges and or fees that we need to cover that space, as well as the custodial fees on weekends and things that are above and beyond what the cost that is already there. So.
The next policy committee meeting is Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, January 18th at 7 p.m. at the Education Center. So anybody who's interested in this, please come. We want to hear from you, please. Can everybody hear her?
There you go. I turned it on.
Sorry. I'm not a sports person, so I'm not really sure who's left. I mean, we have 4 exemptions here. I know we did something with community partners or something like that, but I mean, I'm not opposed to getting rid of all the cost if we have to.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, terrific. So we have a motion and a second, and a request for a roll call vote. So Mr. DeRicio, if you would do that, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. Huh. So anybody want to?
Motion to approve item C, the formal, waiver of formal. D, motion to the agreement with Kalbach Academy, and E, the agreement for gas transportation services.
Second.
That's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any questions? No? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. I'm going to turn the report over to Mr. Hipser now for his first financial report as our treasurer.
All right. May or may not have noticed a more streamlined format for the business report. A comprehensive summary is available on page 1, followed by a more detailed analysis on the pages that follow. Kudos to Mr. DeRiso and his staff for his efforts to provide an easier to understand report of our finances. Now, if you would, if you could take a look at the general fund expenditures, which appear on pages 34 to 39, the expenditures totaling $1,716,812.91. I would entertain a motion of these payments to be approved for December. All in favor?
Aye. Oh, yeah.
What sort of questions?
Oh, are there any questions?
I just want to mention the fact that there's a lot of balance on here for charter schools.
Right.
And that makes me very sad.
Mr. DeRiso, do you have a comment on that? All right, with that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against?
Opposed.
Opposed, yes. All right, next up, the motion carries. Next up, we have the review of the capital projects and capital reserve, which appear on pages 40 and 41. Expenditures appear, the total for these expenditures are $16,116.75. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve these payments? Are there any questions? Wow, always good to look at the next page. All right, with that being said, I am looking for a motion to approve those.
This is the last one.
I knew she was going to do it. I have
The last
to.
president.
We have to ask. Still playing Breslin.
So no.
All right, with that being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Finally, we have the last pages 42 to 45, have a list of per capita exonerations for Red Hill Borough. Exonerations for the other municipalities will follow at future meetings. Red Hill does not use Berkheimer to collect the per cap, thus their information is separate. Would anyone care to make a motion to accept Red Hill's per cap exonerations?
Second.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, back to you, Judy.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is new follow-up items. Does anybody have anything they would like to place on new follow-up items? No?
There was a board comment about the middle school drop off. I didn't know the votes were there. Whether or not they did follow the meeting or the comment was that
About
all class
right.
are able to, I agree with the fine as a thankful for. But students are paraphrasing, students who are on the bus are able to get off the bus and walk into school, while students who are able to walk off are not able to walk in at the same time. And there was a question about that, so just want clarification for that.
Yeah, I can answer that for you. I spoke with Mrs. Siegfried. That the time for when the front doors have opened has shifted. Right now it's at 7:20, which is the time that the staff comes on. There are, I guess, a couple staff that are on the side for the buses because the buses have to get to the high school and get to the next route. So if they come in at 7:15 or so, then the kids come off to get off so the buses can continue on. The front doors are 7:20 as soon as the first staff member's coming on, or the teacher time to come on for the hallway there. That's where they go for a little while.
So where do the kids go to get off?
They go right in and they go up to their hallways. So they go according to the bus. The buses go in. When they drop, the kids go in and go. They have access to the academic wing. And at 7:20, the doors are open for the kids to come in. And I think it's 7:25 or whenever the staff is there, then they head up there as well. So there is a difference, but at one point it was 7:35, and that's been back up to 7:20. Mrs. Siegfried adjusted the time for teachers to arrive to get it open as early as it can. But she says there are people there, students that are there potentially as early as 7 o'clock that are waiting with, what's that? I guess, yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, I can have Mrs. Siegfried follow up with that parent if that helps to close that loop.
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be good.
We do that. Yep.
Any other items for follow-up? No? Okay, then we are going to move on to the second public comments portion. So again, I encourage everybody to please come down, state your name, your municipality, and make your comment.
Jeff Wilson, Pennsburg. You guys really raised a lot of blood pressures tonight. I don't know, don't even know where to begin. But as I stand before you here tonight, I've decided to shift courses with regards to this platform, since it has been abundantly clear that things have not gone well and things have not been working. It is crystal clear now that you were all bought and paid for, and everyone knows it. Bought and paid for to the tune of at least $2.5 million. Parents have begged you and pleaded with you to allow them to have a choice with regards to their children and their children's health and mental well-beings. You have seen tears, strife, anguish, and frustration, and it's fallen on deaf ears. You all have had an agenda this whole time. It was never to keep the kids to stay safe. It was to ensure that the funding would not go away. And it sounds like we're in for another, year of this. For the better part of 2 years, you have failed this community, you have failed our children. The mask mandates, inconsistent rules on contact tracing and quarantining, and following absolutely idiotic procedures and policies as set forth by what we now know is a fully corrupt and fully exposed CDC and Montgomery County Board of whatever. The verdict is out. You don't have to look very far to see that, but the damage is done on so many levels that we will never recover. Our kids, our communities, and our world. A few fun COVID facts. Hospitals get the following bonuses for every admitted COVID patient in their hospitals. In Tennessee, $167,000. Nebraska, $379,000. North Dakota, $339,000. Nevada, $471,000. Hospitals get a $40,000 bonus for every patient on a ventilator. These hospitals, doctors, nurses have to follow the NIH protocols on the CBC website. It will point you directly back to the NIH protocols. These organizations are all in bed together and should never be trusted ever, ever again. The approved BAU drug for COVID is remdesivir. We're all familiar with it now. The USA was the only country allowed to use this for COVID treatment. This was a failed Ebola drug that was so toxic they found out that you're better off with Ebola itself. It shuts down all your organs, including your kidneys, your lungs fill with water, you die. This was all planned, folks. The death cocktail that they're promoting at these hospitals, remdesivir, intubation, midazolam.
I'm sorry, could you conclude? Your time is up.
Excuse me?
Could you conclude your statement? Your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't looking up.
Just finish your thought.
Yeah. My point here, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was out of time. But the pressure here, after what we're hearing tonight, it's the pressure in 2020 is going to be on even further. But I think the quick solution to this is if we get a needle in every kid's arm, this whole thing will go away, apparently, from what I've seen tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Next.
Jessica Gallagher, Marlboro Township. These are the people who I've seen out in Weiss and other buildings that don't ever wear a mask. You, Judy, Penny Pecker.
Sorry, gonna have to interrupt you.
I have seen you.
To tell me the date.
Emily,
please.
Melanie has not worn a mask to any, don't interrupt me while I'm having my comment.
You made a comment about me.
That's true. That's true.
Tell me when you said.
And I did. I sent it to you in an email and you never responded. If you wanted to know, then you should have asked me in the email that you never responded to.
We needed to do it in public.
Oh, we do, huh? You can't email parents that belong to your district. And just because I came here and called you out for the fraud that you are, you got mad and now want to call me out and interrupt my comment?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. You know what? Please finish your statement.
No, I will. I am going to finish my statement. So anyway, Melanie has not worn a mask when she came out with us for campaigning. Keith and Rand don't wear masks and everybody knows that they don't because they're not frauds. And then Emily has not worn a mask when we were at the polling stations. Neither did JP, on and off without the mask in front of a bunch of people. Dr. Roche, you've met me at the Halloween trunk or treat, shook my hand and talked to my husband and I face to face, no mask, no problem talking to me face to face, not one problem. Every single person that has voted to keep this mask order in is a fraud. A fraud. And since nobody gives two shits about what the parents have to say in this school district, I'm done coming to these school boards. Now we're gonna just go and sue you. We're gonna sue you, and I'm especially suing you, Farina, for discriminating against my animistic pagan beliefs. That's what I came here to say, and you will never have to see me again. Okay. Have a nice night.
Okay, so thank you very much for your comments. We do appreciate it, and I hope you continue to come. Next.
Jennifer Belts, Marlboro Township. I stand before this school board disgusted and exhausted. For months, I've been telling you cloth and surgical masks do nothing to protect against airborne viruses, and yet you have continued to mask our children. I told you that quarantining our healthy children is affecting their grades, education, and future, and you continue to do that too. You simply do not care about my children or any other children in this district. UPSD only cares about its ESSER funding, which is the reason they have continued to mask, quarantine, COVID test, and contact trace our children. If you truly cared, every child would have a fitted N95 mask every day at school. I have brought to your attention that you have disseminated obscene literature to children, and although you put a new policy in place, the fact is these books should have never been in our public schools in the first place. Those of you that support these books are pedophiles, and you deserve to be charged with pedophilia. If you think it's normal for children to read about a father raping his daughter and that it gives him pain to pull out of her, you need your head examined. Society and the public school system are attempting to normalize pedophilia. The longer the parents of this district sit at home and don't show up to speak about the indoctrination of your children, the longer it continues. Sexually explicit content given to minors, as well as children dressing like animals in the school, being led around the hallways with leashes, is all a part of the normalization of this behavior. What's next? Adults identifying as children so they can sexually assault actual children because they claim to identify as children themselves? Society has become so unhinged from reality, it's disturbing. Where were all the parents when the school district started allowing children to dress like animals at school? I'm being told it's been happening for years, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. My kids can't wear sunglasses or hats, but I'll be damned, strap some animal ears, tails, collars, and leashes on them, and that's acceptable. My kids tell me about what happens in these schools, and it seems to me you have lost complete control over the students and schools. The job of the public school is to teach our children reading, writing, math, science, and history to prepare them for the future and adulthood. This school district has failed our children on every level. I'm done dealing with the school board. You all sit there like robots with blank stares and nothing to say.
Thank you. Next. Welcome. Please state your name and municipality.
You know my name. Mary Cannon Orhowski, Hereford Township. I know you don't answer my questions, that maybe someone can get back to me on where to go with a couple of things. My first big thing is, where do I find the information when you opt out of the Keystones on when there's, like right now that they're required to do Edgenuity? Where can I find when that information was received? Because my senior was just told last week that she has till March to now do this. After March 1st, she can't go to prom. After this date, she can't go on the trip. After this date, she can't graduate. So I just want to know why they're given such a short amount of time, and when you guys receive that information, when this was a requirement when you opt out.
Mary, do you want to call me? I'll show you.
Well, if I can get a hold of you. I know everybody else is calling to complain. I don't know. I have real other things too. Okay, and the masking thing is for indoors only, correct? So when we're outside, it's cool.
So if you are close contact.
No, I'm just saying the masking policy is for indoor facility, for indoor the facility.
So in high transmission, they recommend masking whenever you can be outside if you're in a large group.
Right.
They are recommending masking.
Right. And I'm very confused about the household contact with the mask to stay. I know you try, I'm just.
I know.
So I have one positive. I have a herd of kids. They're all negative. They've masked to stay. They're getting those tests, they're negative. But if one of the herd tests positive out of that, do they then all have to start all over and stay home? Or can the others continue to stay and mask to stay? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't understand. And I will call you. You do have one children.
I know. I'm sorry. That's why I try.
You need no, but ultimately, there are additional questions that I'll ask, and our nurses will ask.
Yeah, it's just very hard to follow. I appreciate. I don't know. I was going to say something else and I can't even remember because there's so much chaos.
It's very confusing.
Thank you.
Next.
Nicole Benson, Red Hill. I just have a question. There was a picture of all of you guys when you were showing your slides, and you were in the school. You were not 6 feet apart, and you had no masks on. How is that okay when you make our kids wear masks every single day? Please answer me. COVID doesn't hit the school board members?
Oh, wait, or are you all vaccinated? So you're allowed to do that? Can someone please answer me that question?
Absolutely.
Most of us, pull them down real quick. Back up. So within the, it was not within the
I'm
15
sorry,
minute
what?
thing.
I didn't understand anything. Sorry, say it again.
But no, and I know you'll probably come back at me for something, but I'm just saying that we took them, like I was wearing mine. They're like, all right, we're going to take a photo. So I pulled it down real quick, put it back up once we were done the photo.
No, actually what we did was, I remember distinctly, we took them off. We said, okay, we'll just take them off for the picture. A lot of people had them behind their things. It was 30 seconds.
I just think it's hypocritical. And all of this is hypocritical. You know.
So one of the things about COVID is Dr. Coffey down at CHOP once said to me that time plus distance equals exposure. So 30 seconds is not likely to cause an exposure. Sitting next to a student all day.
That makes no sense to me. And I just want to say, I'm a hairdresser and I'm in somebody's face, not that long because, you know, I'm just making sure that their hair is even and I catch COVID. That's maybe 30 seconds that I'm in their face. Mm-hmm. So it's all lies. And I just want you guys to see that and really feel how we're feeling because everything that is happening in this world right now is all a bunch of lies. And it's all contradicting because you say that you can't get it in 30 seconds, but you can get it in 30 seconds. If you're in someone's face or you're next to somebody or you just, you know, put your hands on your face, on your nose to take your mask off, and now you're touching somebody, you're getting it. I just want you guys to see that everything that's going on right now and that what you're doing, it doesn't make sense. And it's just, it's insane. It's insane. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Vicki Lightcap from Pennsburg. I just have two questions. The first question is, how long are the ESSER funds going to control our school district? And when will this health safety plan be over? Is that this year being last year you had to qualify by creating this health safety program? So by September of this year, will this health safety program plan no longer be needed? And then we can get back to normal? And second of all, the ESSER funds require no child to be left behind. So how many days is the school board going to allow before a child is considered left behind? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rachel Kalbach, Red Hill. I promise this is not about masking. I don't agree with any of what you said up there. This is actually about emails. And I'm probably one of the sole people with a sixth grader who doesn't have a cell phone, which is mind-boggling in and among itself. But now I'm not able to communicate with my child, even though it is a school. My email is on the school emergency list. Now, all of our children are blocked from our emails. We can't send emails to our children on their school email, just so you know. And that is not okay. And every single parent should be concerned about that.
I'm sorry, could you explain that? I'm not sure I understand.
If your child emails from their school email to your personal account, even if it's listed on an emergency contact, it will bounce back to them and vice versa.
Yeah, there was a recent change that will be in the update tomorrow. And I know Mr. Groff is here. He can probably best explain it. I know there was a concern that was raised from K to 8 as well as 9 to 12 in terms of email addresses getting outside access to people with the email addresses. So technology-wise, there was a change and it's being communicated now.
Is there any way though to, because I mean, no, that's a very valid point. right? Is there any way to like, oh my God, this is probably confusing, but like a white list, like, so, if you want to email your kids, like your kid, the email can go to her, but it can't come to like, if they put in like Mike Elliott, it's not coming to me, you know what I mean? But like, she can get the emails.
I understand your question. I would have to defer.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, like Rand said, like a white list.
I understand.
Can we add that to new follow-up items? Because I also would like to know if there's something.
Like, it's a requirement, but like, there's a way that we can kind of, to give parents the access, because not every kid has a cell phone. Like, my kids are older, they're doing sport, so like they have them, so we can, plus we have that Life 360 app on it, which is really cool, right? But
at some point, my kids' life, you know,
Yeah, but
if he's a sixth grader, I get it. I mean, that kind of, yeah.
She's a walker
There
and
are-
I don't trust what's going on in the world around me. And I'm not going to give my sixth grader a smartphone. That's not wise either, considering what TikTok, and they're shutting the restrooms down at the middle school because of stuff's going on. So
Well, if it can't be done, it can't be done, but I would like to see us look into seeing if there's some way we can allow a parent's email to be accepted by a student.
Okay, well, from my understanding is there was a policy, it's in policy, and the setting was unchecked or checked, or whichever way it was done. So it's being corrected to according to policy. So there are some email addresses that have been whitelisted, the ones that they would get with their instructional groupings, like whatever program they were using, Seesaw, whatever else, to allow those communications. I don't know how an individual one would be added, and or the two systems wouldn't talk, the email system wouldn't talk to a emergency address or an email address in Skyward, from what I can tell. I'm way out of my league in terms of the technology piece here, so. But I'm assuming the change went back to policy, so we'll get that corrected and updated. I know there's information that's coming out tomorrow to help clarify that, because there was some people like yourself that had email access for a while, and then all of a sudden it wasn't there. But it was K to 8 was one band, and 9 to 12 was a different band. So we'll take a look at it and refer back to that policy.
Thanks for bringing that up.
As a single, you have to keep it safe on one side of it, so.
Right.
It's about that balance, trying to balance it out.
Hi, it's Mary Kaminowski again, Hereford Township. What policy is that?
I don't have the policy.
You don't have it? All right. Will it be in the email?
We can update it, sure.
I'm just curious to look it up, because I know a lot of parents isn't just about communication, but if, like, say somebody forgets something at home and I need to email it to them for schoolwork, and I also like to see what the difference is between K to 8 and then 9 to 12. Why? Because I tested it today, because there's people complaining about it, and I was able to email my high schooler, but
9 to 12 is open for career exploration and college visits and that type of thing. It's the K to 8 that had the restriction that the box got rechecked or unchecked. One of the two, to not allow from outside groups that are not on the white list that are instructional.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone. I also appreciate everything you do, and you should be given the respect that you deserve for being up there, whether we agree or disagree.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Oh, I think we got one more. Come on down. Just state your name and your municipality.
hi all, my name is Jessica. I'm in Red Hill Borough. I'm sorry? I can. I understand that totally. Believe me. My name's Jessica. I'm in Red Hill Borough. I just have a comment about the vaccination status of our young elementary students. I get it that some people believe, okay, should we vaccinate? Should we not vaccinate? Should we mask? Should we not mask? Okay, if this person masks and this person's not vaccinated, we need to do X, Y, Z, vice versa, is most confusing. Like, I have to write it down and make notes and then go back. It's just insane. Can we just make one policy for all, vaccinated or unvaccinated? Doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, wouldn't it make it so less confusing for everybody? Parents, board members, teachers alike. I mean, we're all in this together. You started this morning, or this meeting, that we all need to just get along and agree to disagree and all. Let's just make one policy. Just make it just totally across the board. You're with it, you're not with it. If you're not with it, then we go to a different type of schooling, which believe me, I was there at one point. But let's just do this together, like one policy, just throughout the entire thing. Don't make it all confusing. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it looks like that's the end of public comments. I am going to turn it over now to board comments. We'll just start at the end and work our way down again. Mrs. Hopkins, would you like to go first?
I have two comments. First, not only is this January School Board Recognition Month, it's also National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, dedicated to raising awareness about the different forms of human trafficking and educating people of this crime and how to spot it. Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Trafficking might be used with violence, manipulation, or false promises of a well-paying job or romantic relationship to lure the victims into trafficking situations. Victims can be of any age, race, gender, or nationality. The U.S. leads all the other nations in consumption. Trafficking has been reported in all 50 states. If you are on Twitter, you can follow at Hearthstone at HQ for updates. And then finally, I'd also like to say thank you to Judy and the rest of the board for the gift of time and taking on all the committee workload without me. However, if you were censuring me for another year, I believe you should have at least held a public vote. Removing me from all the committees again this year will allow me to spend more time with my family and friends and attend more protests. This also displays Judy's lack of leadership skills, as for her first order of business is to ignore a board member she doesn't like, and then make a speech about working together. That's how ironic. This board can do better under other leadership. The faster you figure it out, the better. I'm an elected official representing the community, and by not putting me on any committees, you are denying the voters the voice of their elected representative on school board business. But keep talking to everybody about how they all need to be heard.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hopkins. Oh, all I said was thank you. Mr. Prego.
Oh, thank you. I was going to ignore this, but now I'm not. I think it's something needs to be said to Luann about the comments that you made at the last December 6th board meeting. Specifically, when you recommended parents defy the health and safety orders put in place, pull children out of the district, and said in regards to people following masking mandates, and I quote, if you wondered if you would have been one of the 11 million who boarded the trains in Germany, just look as far as the tip of your nose. Comments like that show that you truly aren't acting in the district's best interest anymore. Accepting the shirt from a member of the audience during a meeting in which the shirt openly mocks a fellow member.
Why don't you take your mask off so we can hear?
You don't need to. I don't need to.
You ask this person to take her mask off.
Please allow our board.
This is my turn to talk.
I can understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry you can't. I think everybody else can. Moving on. Accepting a shirt from a member of the audience during a meeting in which the shirt openly mocks a fellow member of the community and saying that you love it is shameful and unprofessional. Not everyone gets along, and I get that, but this act was on a whole nother level. Typically, I don't want to give any attention to something like this because it's just so ridiculous and feeds into the needs of attention of people. But in this case, I don't want my silence on the issue to be confused with acceptance. I keep hearing about the 20 parents you talk to and feel like they aren't being heard. Well, guess what? The over 2,300 people that voted me to be in this seat want to be heard too. And they're tired of your antics and distracting behavior. It needs to end.
Well said, JP. I'm going to echo those thoughts. I think we thought long and hard about the idea of bringing you back on board, and things went further south as we were thinking about that idea. So you've put yourself in a bad situation, and we can't move forward because of that.
I still look there.
So one of the things that I just want to say is that my grandfather fled Czechoslovakia as a child when the Nazis invaded. He doesn't know we never knew what happened to his dad. He fled with his mom, made his way across Europe, made his way across the Atlantic, signed a royal asylum, which is really cool. Man, you cannot talk down to that. Like, I just think that's so disrespectful. It was painful. Hearing people tell their stories about World War II and the Holocaust and what happened in those times. So I think we can't make light of that situation at all, ever. And I think to do so dishonors those who lost their lives. I think it dishonors the veterans who fought in that war, not only for this country, but for the Allies. So that's just how I feel about that.
Go ahead. The last name Hopkins is a Polish Jew. I have family members, and I have stories as well. I was not talking about any one of them. I'm talking about how they walked onto the trains. They thought they were going to do something. They thought they were going to be safe. They got off the trains. They saw kids playing by the trains. They thought everything's fine, and they marched right into the ovens.
I can feel your passion. I can feel your passion, which is why I don't think we should talk. We shouldn't belittle it. We shouldn't belittle it.
I'm not belittling it. I'm pointing it out that it's happening again.
It's not belittling.
She can recognize them.
Okay. Mr. Elliott, are you done with your comment? Okay. Anybody on this side want to make a board comment? Who said I do? I'm sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
I just want to echo that, what the other said. I love the cool word with recap and that whole banner on the street by Parks and Labs, where the constituents in spirit of harmony and best interests of the children. Saying those things and showing up to protest peacefully is one thing. This is not a peaceful protest and a choir and band concert. It's not to yell at parents and children coming out of the concert. That is not indicative of someone looking to work together for the betterment of our district and our children, and really only work to gain attention for themselves. And further guidance at a time when we need to focus on the youth in our community as a board and improve the experience for our students.
I'd like to address that too. You weren't there. However, Andrea was. And when she came out, she got a hug and she laughed at us. And we laughed at her. And then she walked to her car. When we followed her, nobody screamed at her. Nobody said anything to her. So the people that you're hearing from, most of them weren't there.
That's not true.
Can you tell me why you're fighting over this? It's about the kids, and you should be concerned about the kids' business, not all the school.
Okay. All right. Excuse me. This is board comments. We do not take comments from the audience at this time. Thank you very much. So I believe Yep. I am not entertaining motions to adjourn at this time because I knew you wanted to speak.
Motion, thank you. I'm not going to get into he said,
No.
she said, they said, whatever. If I have issues with people, I will speak to them individually about it. I think most of the people know my stance for the past almost 2 years at this point, where I stand on most of the issues. We can talk about elections among ourselves later on if you want. That's not a problem. I have no problem doing that. But what I'd like to mention is the fact that we're here for the kids, and we have some of for kids here that I'm going to recognize right now. This is going to be a workshop setting when we do our committee updates and things like that. Since I'm at the Western Center and I had a meeting last week, or this week, I'm sorry, seems to get extended. But at the Western Center, we just had some news that we had 3 students from Western Center go up to a diesel technology convention of a Williamsburg, Penn College Technology in Williamsburg. 3 of those students brought home honors. One of the students there is an upper first student, Jaden Harkins. He won first place in the trailer inspection. Awesome. And I'm going to keep this short.
Keith, just move the mic so everybody can hear, because it kind of.
Can you hear me all?
Yeah, now it's better.
Okay. We move on to culinary arts. Our culinary arts group catered the Springford Chamber of Commerce last month. In addition to that, they also had 6 students from the program accepted into a scholarship program called CCAP. It's Careers Through Culinary Arts Programs. It's a national nonprofit that's been around for close to 30 years. They give out scholarships and things like that. They have competitions. They have 6 locations throughout the country. Philadelphia is one of them. 6 students were accepted into the final round of the scholarship competition this time. Out of those 6 students, 3 of those 6 are UP juniors. They are Aaron Dover, Ashley Culp, and Legacy Maxwell's. Another one of our students was a senior. Those 3 students were juniors in this competition. So to be 6 out of like 17 that were accepted into this competition, where they were going against 1,600 students in 19 schools in 4 different counties in the Philadelphia region, it's pretty damn good. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of our other students who's going to graduate this year is Jaden Mowbray. He's been accepted to Johnson Wales University, the Culinary Institute of America, and Penn State. So that's our happy note we're in this meeting. I would now recommend that you do a motion to
Although I would love to, Mrs. Cunningham wants to make a comment and I want to give her the floor. It would have been great to end on that wonderful positive note. Maybe you have another one that you could bring up after she's done.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I just wanted to say that my ears are not that. I'm a in school. They make me in school, work balance, and mental health, and physical health. And right now, this is the best I can do. And that's all I can say. Do I think it's all crap too? Yep. So it is what it is, and this is what we have to follow now. We have to hang in there and we can do it.
Mrs. Penny Pecker, do you have any? Okay, I have one last thing to say. I understand you feel that you weren't heard tonight, and I'm so sorry because I don't know how to express that. Although you guys come every single month and talk to us, there are 3,000 families in this district, and I hear from all of them as well. And many, if not most, have told me that they like the plan the way it is. Now, I have to admit, in November, my plan was to start discussing at this meeting, making masks voluntary. But then the spike hit. And I work in a school and I see it. And I know that in our students that are masked and are socially distanced, they're not getting sick. Our kids at my school are getting sick at basketball practice, cheerleading practice, things like that, where they're not wearing masks half the time out of the schools. So I don't think this is the time to get rid of the masks. And neither do most of the parents I hear from. They just don't come here. But I am listening to you, and I do not want you to stop coming. I want you to keep coming, but don't stop coming because you don't get the answer you want. Eventually, I hope that you will, hopefully soon. We're all sick of this.
It's all about the metrics, so let's see what happens.
So, right. You know what? If we see exactly what Dr. Roche said happens and these numbers start dropping, I have no problem having this conversation again next month, or the month after that, or the month after that.
You're not looking at the right numbers.
But,
Hospitalization or death rate.
so anyway, so please keep sending me emails. Please keep coming, because I am listening. And on that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, other than losing to the Hornets.
They lost to the Hornets?
Yeah.
Wait, you looking for me?